The reason why we actually decided to have, by we, I mean the royal we, decided to have this meeting on this first day of office is because this is a completely fresh new landscape that we're drawing on. What I can tell about myself is that I'm a person who likes routine. So I find that when you have a routine and you know you do things at the same time all the time, it's very easy to function. You have less choice, your brain doesn't have to focus, do I choose with milk or without, with sugar, or do I go latte? You just take black coffee with water, Americano, take it, you go. And same thing with work routines. So people tend to work better in set routines where they don't have to make a decision every time. Us moving to this office has changed everything for everyone. So we're not in the old office anymore. Your habits are going to change. What you'll notice for the next few weeks is you're coming here, you're working, and you're finding it difficult to get into the groove of working because it's a different environment. So you're forming a new habit of working in here. Now what I also want to do is use this as kind of like the perfect environment to build new habits. Now a habit normally takes 3 weeks to build, 21 days. You take every day. I ran an experiment. I took my shoelaces and I decided to learn to tie shoelaces backwards, so with the other hand. So I'm right-handed. With left hand, it was like very difficult. I can tell you that after 3 weeks, I automatically tie it that way now. Even though my right hand, obviously, the shoelace ties much stronger, but the other way, without thinking, it just starts automatically tying like that. And this is, you do it every day. 3 weeks it takes. So what I would like to do for the next 3 weeks, there's two things. One is optional, the other one is not so optional. Starting with Hubstaff. So now that everybody is working remotely, you get a lot more freedom in how you do your work. With freedom comes a responsibility. So this responsibility comes in the form of accountability. So you need to be accountable for your hours, what exactly you're doing. Hubstaff is the ideal way of tracking your hours and also what you've been kind of working on. This applies to everybody who's normally a contractor. If they don't track hours, there's no work. But this also creates a more transparent way of us working together in terms of how we can manage you. And I give you a perfect example is instead of me asking what you've been working on, or you saying I've worked for 5 hours yesterday, like imagine you have a contractor and he's like, yes, on this day I did 4 hours in this, 5 hours in this, and you just have to believe them on their word. And while I generally trust everybody and I believe you until you prove me wrong, and then I'll still try to trust you. So it's a complicated relationship and everybody has the same with all human beings. It's a lot easier when this thing is just being transparent. And so Hubstaff allows us to do that. For the sake of this activity, I used to use the software called Toggle to also track my hours. I'm using Hubstaff also now to track all the hours because I've had to add more users and now we have enough. So before it was like a money issue. So what I've done now is I've actually taken Hubstaff and removed the kind of projects that you can work on. Some of you already know this really well, how the software works. But the critical thing is, kind of went off at an angle, is you have to turn it on. Okay, you guys figure out your own routine, how you do it. Not having Hubstaff running is not an excuse. It's a really bad excuse. And you don't have the actual option to manually add hours. So if you forget to turn it on, you're gonna have to come to me and you're gonna have to ask me to do it. Or option number 2, you're gonna have to work extra and track those extra hours. So you figure out there's only one way to learn, and that's how to start swimming. And so this is how we start swimming, okay? I'm not gonna go into big details of this, but there is, for some of you, for example, who work in support, you get actually be able to see other people's hours to see how well they're working and whether they're working. The Hubstaff takes screenshots of your screen every 10 minutes randomly, and also tracks your mouse and keyboard activity. So moving a mouse is activity. Generally, for example, at Sushi, he has statistics that are off the fucking chart, man. So he does stable over 80%, high activity, everything looking like he's constantly working. And that's how you normally work in front of a computer, is you need the computer to do the work. If you're not using the computer, you're not working. Unless you're on the phone, or you're going to the post office, or you're in a meeting. That's kind of what it narrows down to. So if the bulk of your work is working in front of the computer, you gotta be recording above 70%. So 60% is like a cutoff where it's already, you know, like a quarter, more than a quarter of the time. Like 2/5 you're spending on not in front of the computer, unless, I don't know, there's some kind of other type of work, there isn't really an excuse for it. So somehow you're doing it ineffectively. But generally, aim for 70% or higher. You can see these activity rates for yourself on Hubstaff, so you know. Curtis, you'll get hands-on experience of being able to see this with support staff. So it's like that. What the computer actually does is that if you're idle and you don't turn it off, when you come back and you turn it on, it says that you've been idle. Would you like to reassign it or not? So for the moment when you've been idle, and you decide to add it, instead of screenshots, it's just going to show blanks. So you can see that somebody has added this and hasn't actually, there's no screenshots recorded. So unless you have been working and you've been doing something, you can add it. What is it? Continue. Keep idle time. Continue. And then this just added and it continues. But if you haven't been working on anything, and this is normal, you forgot, you went to the toilet, somebody called you, your mom called on the phone, 40 minutes, you come back, don't record it.
This looks like mine.
But before it gives you options to write description of what
For me, it doesn't, I think, because I have like an owner account, but for you guys, probably you have to explain exactly why you're adding it. But look, this is pretty transparent, it's straightforward, it's good for you, it's good for me. It's general accountability. We have nothing to hide in here. And if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about. If you have something to hide, we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Sometimes we need to talk to people. In terms of the actual tasks that I've cleaned this up completely. So you'll see now there's admin, design, errands, finance, general. So this is like emails, meetings, stuff that doesn't fall. Inventory, logistics, marketing, product listings, sales, software support, and training. All of these are actually based on Wrike. So over the weekend, besides spending all the time in here, I've rearranged how Wrike looks. So it's easier for us to categorize our projects. It's finally coming to fruition. And one of the things that I've done is I've divided everything by departments. So each one of you, you work within a particular department. Okay, so for example, Sylvie, she does a lot of admin. So this is like administrative work. Tim, he does design. Costa does design. Amjad, he does a lot of finance, or she also now specializes in finance. Inventory, this is Amjad. This is anything to do with stock turnover reports, sourcing, things like that. Logistics, anything that Tanya is doing. Sylvie may also be involved. This goes in there. Marketing is anything related to advertising, social marketing and media. If you kind of open it here, you're gonna see the different stuff. So this stuff will actually naturally fill up. So right now, I've taken existing structures of what people have created, and then I've posted them in here. And all of you have access to all of these, bar finance. So this finance is limited to management and Orshi. And Amjad, and Sylvie, and that's it. There's also the product listings. This is a big one. So in here, stuff is divided by channels. Also, the content goes in here. So anything related to text will get posted in here. There's prices, SKUs, and there's a critical folder of upload. In here, you will summarize everything that needs to be uploaded. So. Look, it's a work in progress. It's going to take a while to get this perfect structure working, but we will work together in getting this done. Now, the reason why I'm kind of detailing these is because each of these is a particular department. Now, this is what you will track on Hubstaff. What I'm working on is Hubstaff can actually sync with Wrike, but right now it doesn't. So you're supposed to be able to not only pull up these projects on Hubstaff, but you'll actually be able to clock your hours against individual tasks. And this is kind of like the next generation. What we're aiming for is any work that you're creating is going to be based on a task that you have to complete in Wrike. And this is where I'm kind of like moving with this after the Hubstaff, is that this Wrike thing is all about creating a new habit. So Hubstaff is not optional. You just turn it on and that's there. Using Wrike, we have to change how we work in order for this to work well. So it's like using Slack. You know, in the beginning it took time to learn. Some people kept on resisting and they wanted to chat via Skype. And in Slack we still have problems where a lot of people speak in private messaging. But I guess that's how the software gets used. There's no point fighting it. But with Wrike, what it differs is that you created a new communication tool. So stuff that used to go in Slack, and it's much easier for me to go on Slack and say, Kauna, can you please change this picture because this one is bad. And you send him a link. He's like, okay, sure. The better way of doing it is I go to Wrike, I open the project. So for example, for Kamran, let's say that it's something related in general to a particular Amazon account. I will go in here and I will create a task. Like for example this, I just did this today. The iPad 5.6, we need to rename the listings because they say iPad 9.7 and Apple refers to them as 5.6. So I create a task. I answer 3 critical questions. Zebo has 5. I could only think of 3. I'm not sure what to do with the other, but you can interchange them. But 3 is the minimum that you need to give. You need to define what the problem is, what you want them to do. So add iPad 5 to titles and then rename iPad 9.7 2017 to the iPad 9.7 6. And then by putting it there, it forces me to actually put a deadline. A project without a deadline is going to initiate more conversations because you're going to come back to me and you're like, when do you need this due? Let's just skip that and we just address it immediately. Or if it's not urgent, I'll say this week and I give like a window when it can be done, you know, so you have options. And how, this is a critical one, is if you have expectations of how the work needs to be done, of what kind of format it should take, what is your ideal understanding of it, you need to kind of convey it. You need to give it because otherwise it leaves too many gaps. Like for example, I need to have the title changed for all iPad 9.7 products and on all Amazon accounts. Okay, so this isn't just one account. But to help this, I know that you need to create some kind of a table, I call it matrix because you need to collaborate SKU and matrices, and market where you can check off which market has been done. The reason why I ask for checklists is because it's very easy to miss products. If you don't have a checklist, I'm gonna come to you and I'll be like, are you sure you didn't miss anything? You're like, yes, sure. I'm like, show me the list of products that you've created. So I'm gonna ask you for this anyways. And you need to create it to be organized, to be able to plan it out and know what you need. So I thought of this, I'm like, okay, I might as well write this down. And the next one, in bullet points, this came to me like several minutes later, that you should probably rename the iPad 9.7 2017, which is like quite long, and then replace it with 5th generation and 6th generation, because this is the format that is mentioned on in here on Apple's website. So that's how they reference it. And just for your understanding, this is how people will search for their iPad. This is like they take Apple's phraseology. Anyways, and then another one in the selection drop down to change the title to iPad Air 1 / iPad 5 / iPad 6. You know, the little box that you click on to select the size. Now I think this just covers it all, so there isn't really any ambiguity of how this can be misunderstood. There's a deadline to the task. I take the task, I assign it to Kostya, I assign it to Kamran. Between the two of them, they can decide who does this specifically. And then for now, what I've done is I just take a link to this, and then I wrote directly on Slack and channel Amazon, guys, can you please deal with this? So basically this whole implementation I'm building on my personal experience, and what I'm finding is that it's very tough because it's a different habit. I need to think about work differently. Now, this will work well once it all gets adopted and once it, for me, becomes automatic. The only way it's going to be automatic is if I do this every day and I try to do this for all tasks, like without an option. It's the same thing, why you brush your teeth every morning automatically, you don't think about it, you go and you brush, and it's no longer a choice, it's just something that happens. And this is what I want us to do with Wrike. So I want you to think of all the tasks and activities that happen to you with other people that you work with, that everything is logged in Wrike, every single task, and if somebody tells you to do something, you can ask them to, can you please put it on Wrike, and then tag me, and then send me a link. And the critical thing is it's going to be very, very difficult right now. But for us, we've simplified this. We've already jump-started the system by moving to a new office. The habits have been, all old habits are broken right now. You're forming new ones. Coming to this office is a new habit. You're taking a new tram, you're taking a new bus. It's in a completely different environment. Amjad is really close, he's gonna hug you anytime. You know, like, yeah, I have to talk in this office in different volume because this room is small. So everything is different. And then, of course, you're also working from home half the time. So that kind of changes everything. Since you're at it, why not throw in a new habit into it? And let's do the right thing. In the long run, Wrike is gonna be the software that will either make it or break it for us. Because we have a lot of tasks, we do a lot of different small projects, and the only way to manage it effectively is by having some kind of an oversight tool. Okay? It takes time to understand, but I need you to bear with me. I need you to follow it, and as we dive in deeper, we'll get better with it. Because besides the basic just task, you know, and then the whole inbox thing that shows you what has been expected for you for the last 4 days from Globar, you can also have like these different tags regarding my work. So this is anything that's assigned to me, but there's so much stuff in here. There's so much stuff that's been delayed and that hasn't been done that needs to be cleaned up. This isn't a very good tool right now. Like there's this thing called dashboards, and then dashboards, let's look at my team shared. Yeah, you can create different dashboards to follow different projects, to see how well it's doing, what is late. Let's say that you are, for example, in product listings, and you need to know if there's something that needs to be uploaded, because for you it's a priority, or there are bugs that need to be fixed. You would create a dashboard that only tracks the uploads, and it shows you all the individual tasks that are overdue, for example, because everything now that works with deadlines, you have to move time zones. Like time, and then you create this report. In a single report, you can see everything that is overdue and you need to do today, and it kind of simplifies it. Now, the thing is that this tool is very good for simple stuff, but this is also professional project management software. You could build an Olympic stadium using this tool. So it has enough detail for us to go very, very detailed. So between where we are right now and where we would like to be is about this much. Where you can go is about this much. Okay, so we just need like a fraction of this tool. And yeah, so I've divided this thing into, just to kind of go into a little bit more detail, into departments. So it's easy to kind of find and post work. And then the other one is products. So this is all our products. I think all. There might have been some obscure ones that didn't get listed. That basically bundle all our products together. So particularly for people who work with products, it's easier to find. So if I go for Trooper 2K, I put stars on them because I want these to be on the top. You can also, for example, if you add subtasks, you can number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will, because it always puts it in alphabetical order. So anyways, in here I can see all tasks that are associated with Cooper Trooper 2K, and I can also show, for example, everything that's finished. The structure of this is not as good, so we could figure out better ways. And just to show you, I was trying to figure out this on the Bambino box, and if you click on the main folder, it shows you all of it, and it's a little bit like all over the place. There's a lot of things to look at. But however, if you break it down into 3 sections, one of them would be, for example, data. So anything related to the name, to the actual sample, SKU, price, cost, everything that like is physical, like weight and dimensions. This is data about the product. You can keep it in one, folder. Another one would be media, and in here is everything related to boxes, to content, to images, videos. Basically any creative content that gets published would go into here. And then the final one will actually be upload. So in here, anything that needs to be uploaded, you create a new task and you link it to the previous one. You can even create dependencies where you create a new task and say one is being finished, have that activated, and whoever you assign that task to, they'll receive an email notification saying that they're next, and they basically have 2 days to load it or something like that. But this is kind of just started, and I think this might be a good way, unless we find a better way of structuring each product's folders. But yeah, this is kind of going into a bit more detail, but all the products are bundled by legal brand. Besides this, there's an extra tool that's called software. And then in software, this is where we list everything that we work with in terms of software, and because a lot of the time we spend is actually administering and organizing and fixing stuff related to particular tools. Like Bright Pearl, it's like task on its own, just working on that. I'm trying to load SKUs and, for example, add prices to Bright Pearl. That goes well within that. Or I don't know, Feedback 5, all these emails that you work with creating, you would just log it under that. Gen Video, uploading videos there, that's that. Helium 10, for example, when I work on creating new titles, I have to use that and like optimizing the actual content. I could either file it under Helium 10, or I can record it in Hubstaff under like, I don't know, products content or something like that. So not everything necessarily applies to you, but each one of these folders will have an owner. So for MailChimp, Lobar, because she does marketing. For MailMunch, also her. Okendo is going to be Carlos Pineda, because he's the one who kind of loads all the reviews there. ProofMe, this is Tim. Selix, I'll have that. Shopify, I'll probably have it, or maybe Kostya, so whoever is working on Shopify setup. So like Trustpilot stuff, Wrike, Zendesk, for example, this is going to be Curtis's folder, So Bright Pro, for example, that's going to be Amjad's. And this allows us to kind of work with this. I probably missed also a couple, like for example, the automations that we're doing. These would go into here. So one is the order processing automation, the T2C Magic. And then there's going to be the CMS and then the stock update. They'll also go here. So yeah, actually these folders for now, they're all created as projects as opposed to folders, because you need kind of like often text to be displayed in here. And with folders, it collapses this section. You can see, for example, this Bambino, if you click on data, it's a folder because you don't see that big description section. So that's kind of like, you use folders if you want to add extra structure, and you use projects if this is where you want to deliver information and content. So something like that. Another thing that I've done is I found that there's now training, actually there's one called Info How to Use Wrike. So it does, there's an article on best practices, and also a video that Lobar found on 5 things not to do in Wrike. It's about an hour long, but actually the guys go and there's like heavy Russian accent, full on, it's to an extent not even funny, but these guys actually address on all the wrong ways of using Wrike. And there's a million wrong ways of using Wrike because it's quite complicated. That's why we've struggled in adopting it. But I strongly recommend on watching this, familiarize yourself now, because sooner or later you have to do this, and it's quite critical for you to be able to use it natively, like properly, so it's easier and you understand. They address a lot of these issues. They also have, I think, like a small PDF on best practices that was a result of this thing. And then also there's, I don't know how many it is, like 12 templates that are default in Wrike, and I've loaded them up and saved, and this actually explains what kind of projects you can set up. So this project with dependencies, they actually have text that explains what this template does. There's a video on how to install it. It explains how you need to break down your work, and it shows screenshots how to like assign dates and people. It shows you a Gantt chart, what it will show within your project. And basically what this does, it gives you an existing structure that you can use for a simple project. And what they've done is they've created a project that has 5 stages. Each of them is a particular task, and all of these are empty, but you can use this structure and this idea on how to create projects for you. So from really simplistic stuff to like complex projects that come, for example, product launch for us is a complex project like that. So they have like initiation and everything that is in the first stage of the project. You see how can I put number 1 in there? And so it goes in alphabetical. Because otherwise this is normally done by title. So you have to look at how many people, who is on your project team. You have to see what can potentially go wrong. You have to see how far this project has to go, you know, what you're trying to achieve, how you would judge success. And then you go into planning, and then you start actually planning out specifically what you need to do. Then this is actually work on the project, there's nothing here. Then there's a separate one on testing, and then there's separate on launch. And after that is done, your project is complete. Now this is a good template for you to kind of like read and think where within your work you can apply this. Because look, you also have to understand that at some points you will have to create tasks and projects. People you work with, colleagues, things that you need to do. There's side topic, there's this thing that they have called request forms. I think it's in here, incoming requests with approvals. Yes, there's an actual request form that we can create, and then within the request form, you'll get like notifications on whoever needs it. And let's say that you need office equipment. So instead of you coming to Siri and saying that, look, can you please get me new headphones? What you do is we create a special project where you post requests of what you need. And in there, it goes into incoming requests, and whoever needs to approve it afterwards decides what's approved or not. And after it gets approved, somebody goes and buys it.
You can do holidays.
Yeah. Exactly. So same thing for holidays. So same thing for customer support. You know how you have like bugs and issues and stuff? You can have like a request form, what's the problem? And then everything is pre-selected, so it's like bam, 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 done, sent, you know? They don't need to create this whole template and rewrite it. And then we can basically automate a lot more of our work and make it easier. So for example, support request to Amazon. You know how there's always something that is wrong, there's an image not loaded, there's a title not loaded. Create a request form like this. And so every time somebody spots something wrong with that, you go there and you post it, and you guys get a separate task that's created into automatically for fixing it. So yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. I don't know exactly how to do it yet. I haven't done it, but I'm sure together we can all figure this out. So this isn't rocket science. It just takes used to kind of working like this. They even have a progress chart where you can see how many were completed, what was approved, and to kind of like keep track of the process of how well it's doing. So it's a good management tool too. There's stuff on like ticketing and help desk. There's a separate actually layout they have in here. There's stuff on marketing and like creative work. So this training is just for you to kind of look through and understand. It's not something that you'll be commonly using, except for the templates. Archive is where you put, instead of deleting stuff that goes into recycle bin and somebody deletes it and it's all gone, I think tasks that probably don't need to be there anyways, you just drag them into archive, because you can search. There's a search bar in here on the right, and let's say I'm looking CPR 034 Dynamo, and it shows me all the tasks that it can find related to this. And then there is also projects and folders, and then there are some files. So let's see what Sasushi has been doing. Outlet on Rakuten Japan, so he has a separate task called CPR 034, and it's an outlet on Rakuten Japan folder. Yeah, so I guess that's like an easy way of looking for it, and you can also find stuff in the archive. Once it gets thrown into recycle bin, you'll never be able to recover it. So in a way, Wrike, it kind of like overlaps the whole Slack thing and also Drive, because you know you can have files on Drive. But if you load them onto Wrike, it's easier to search them because they're a lot more structured. Like we have folders there, but it's kind of tricky to figure out what's where. But in here, without departments, any guides, any like product fact sheets, you put it onto Wrike. It's still stored in Drive. Invoices. You don't need to actually load the files individually here. That's the cool thing. Let me show you an example in marketing. No, not marketing, sorry. In content, in product listings, we have this thing called product fact sheets. So every product, it has its own fact sheet. And you see how it's linked in here? It shows with the drive symbol. So this automatically loads a file from Drive without polluting, well not polluting, but without using space over Wrike.
This is what I was gonna ask. Is there limited space?
There is limited space. We haven't reached it. I don't know what it is, but for us it's not a concern because we have everything on Drive. So all you do in here is when you add a new file, you add, instead of from computer, you go from Google Drive.
Yeah, but that's a default rule anyway.
What?
That we add files from Google Drive.
Yes, yeah. So I'm just showing, yes, exactly. So it's best to add it from Google Drive. Also, it gives you a reason to store all your files to Google Drive. Also, now that you're moving around, and sometimes you work here, sometimes at home, sometimes at one computer, sometimes on another, it makes sense to save anything work related on Drive. Because the last thing you want to do is kind of lose that work, as you have experienced in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think at this stage I don't really have anything to add. Do you guys have any questions? Are you on board with trying to get this right thing to work?
No, me not. You know that.
All right. There's one question of resistance. I've isolated.
Not resistance. I don't know how it works for me. That's all.
That's okay. We will call you the dark force. So we have to deal with the dark force also. Some of us are going to be lighter elements. Some of us are going to be resistant, but it's okay. It's not resistant, but look, you have to figure out how it works for you and whether it works and whether you need to do it. For everybody else, I find it very instrumental and very helpful. I just need everybody to try it for every day for the next 3 weeks, so until April, end of April. Do it every day, and after that, it's going to become a lot easier. Right now, everything you do is going to be unusual because it's a new environment. But we throw this in there, it's not going to be any more unusual because things are already fucked up from the normal working environment. Okay? Yeah, and that's it. I don't have anything else to add. I think maybe like as a general thing, in terms of you guys working from home, you're all professionals. You've all been working for a while. You have quite long careers. Some of you have been working way over 10 years in different companies. I'm going to treat you as professionals that you are, and I have expectations. So, kind of keep it in mind. But this is never going to turn into a kindergarten operation. You're all here because you deserve to be here, and you're all here because you can do this job and better. And we just need to kind of slowly improve on whatever you need to do, whatever I need to do, and we move forward. And Wrike is one of these, time management is one of these, Hubstaff is one of these. Building new habits to allow you to complete your dreams for whatever they may be. And if you have not considered what your dream is, it is also time to start. Because once you know what you're working towards, it's a lot easier to go through a hard day when you have some kind of a goal. We're all goal-striving mechanisms, so to say. So you need to go to function well. Make it, whatever it is. All right, I'm finished. Any questions? No? For the recording and stuff? No? Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.